And I want to start off discussing Buddy Matthews because, we saw on Rampage last week him and Brody King losing to Sting and Darby Allin. And shortly after that, it was Fightful reporting that was sort of designed to write off Buddy Matthews for the time being off of television. This was further a topic of discussion after a house show, an independent show in Rhode Island over the weekend, where Buddy Matthews gave a very similar speech that we heard from Malachi Black not all that long ago, that he is going to have to take some time away, recalibrate, and figure some things out, and adding this is not goodbye, this is see you later. So that has led to a lot of speculation about what the future is with Buddy Matthews in regards to AEW. He is under contract there. And the Wrestling Observer site has reported that it looks like he does want out of the company, but as of right now, there is no confirmation of such a release being granted. But certainly him and Malachi Black, you have these big question marks next to them. And all Buddy Matthews has really said, he sent out a GIF of Elaine Bennis with the comment "fake" on it, which I always find these the vague responses to this. It's like you can give if something is inaccurate, you can certainly put it forward, but when you just kind of leave something like that, it's like you're only fanning tons of speculation. But that all aside, obviously there is issues going on with Buddy Matthews, and it's an interesting discussion of AEW's side of things, of how you handle something like this when you have a performer under contract, and ultimately what Buddy Matthews wants. If he in fact wants out of the company, like what is the role of the promoter in this case, where you do have a deal, and what are the options on the table?
Yeah. It continues. We're looking at
what are we doing? What are we talking about here?
This is modern communication, John.
This is the level of sophistication on these figures and what they are willing to speak about their professional status with a company.
Social media is really reduced, I think, to the lowest common reference from our pop culture. But it continues a string of I would say negative press for PR for AEW that I think they've really combated really well with a string of really great shows on TV. But nonetheless, like, the internal strife within the company is still, I think, leaves some questions. And the continued, it wasn't that long a year ago when it felt like every single talent that felt slighted by their booking in the WWE wanted in on AEW, and now we're starting to see at least rumors of people wanting out. I think it seems like there's, at least to me on the surface, slightly different cases where, like, from what I've heard about the Malachi Black situation, that seemed to be more like personal issue based.
Yeah, he put out that pretty lengthy statement, and alluded to a lot of personal issues that he has dealt with as well.
I don't think we've had as much like information about Buddy Matthews' case. Dave is under the impression that both are doing it as a way to get back into the WWE, and this fake GIF from Buddy Matthews could as much be maybe a reference to some of those as anything, but we don't really know for sure. But we can obviously, I think contractually, like, both of them, to your knowledge, Sean, are they signed to full-time deals? Malachi, I think I mean, Tony Khan flat out noted, like, the length of Malachi Black's deal was something like 5 years, and I mean, Buddy Matthews came in February, so it's like these are not like per appearance guys by any stretch. So it's like that's kind of what you're looking at this. And listen, I've in the past looked at it that, especially when it comes to the WWE deals, like, here are contracts where you can sign for X amount of years. You're not guaranteed those amount of years. And yet a performer doesn't get the same ability to exit a contract like the company does. The company just has to give you 90 days notice, and it doesn't matter if you've signed a 5-year deal. And they got out of plenty of deals that had lots more term left on them. So it's like a promise of like, hey, we'll try and give you 5 years, but we're not obligated to. So when we've seen performers held to their deals in WWE, it's very much one-sided.
Now AEW, it's a bit of a different case because they have not gone that route when it comes to they have let contracts run their course, and then they have made a decision on whether they're going to re-sign them or not, with the very, very few exceptions that are in there, like Jimmy Havoc comes to mind. So you have to look at it that way. And if you are AEW, I mean, you can look at it as, okay, do we want someone that doesn't want to be here? Does that do our locker room any good to have people that are not here? With all due respect, like, they will move on if a Buddy Matthews moves on. But at the same time, like, you've invested in this guy. I wouldn't say he's in a top role, but I wouldn't say he's in a nothing role. Like, the House of Black has had a good level of promotion, I would say, within the company. Probably not at they still, to me, could be utilized a bit better, but certainly could have been used a lot worse. So that's to be interpreted by the performer, how he views his treatment in the company. But at the same time, are you just going to send this message that if people want out and they want to go off to WWE, are you setting a precedent that how can you turn down the next guy when you're letting these people go, for instance?
Mm-hmm. First of all, thank you, Mark Gregg Sputnik, for becoming our latest member here in the Post Wrestling memberships. But just kind of getting back to your point, I find the discourse at the moment pretty interesting because we've been through this sort of conversation, but on the other end with, talents like a Dustin Rhodes or Mustafa Ali, wanting their releases from the WWE for, I think, what they would determine creative reasons.
Some getting them and most not, though.
Yeah. I'm most curious to see like what the public discourse is, because I think moves like this affect AEW and the WWE in ways of like, positive or negative PR. On the one hand, you don't want to be seen as somebody who, if you're not utilizing somebody like a Buddy Matthews, you don't want to be seen as somebody simply hoarding talent and grounding them because, you just don't want them to join the competition. But on the other hand, these are businesses. And if you sign a contract that lasts this long, you should be abiding by the length of the contract. So, given that the sides are kind of different, is the public going to react any differently now that this is talent going from AEW to the WWE? Ultimately, I think if you're Tony Khan, yes, a Buddy Matthews isn't going to make a huge difference. But I think you also don't want to set the precedent of, your talents just wanting, like, if they want to leave, you let them leave. You have to negotiate, I think, amicable terms that are fair. Business-wise for every party involved. And maybe that means, I have no idea what it means. I don't even know what his contract looks like, so I don't even want to begin to speculate there. But I don't think it's very cut and dry, just let him go or keep him,
No, it's it's an interesting. It's always going to be case by case as well. Like, do you feel okay? Number one, is this someone that more so is this a negative sentiment towards AEW, or is this simply the fact that WWE is where he wants to be? And maybe it's somewhere in between. Every case is going to be different. I would say number one is you're trying to find an amicable solution. But I would say if it's at this point where, last week was kind of designed to at least remove him from television for the time being, they've at least reached a point where I guess that is not something that is going to be remedied easily. But who is to say that they cannot come to some kind of agreement where they end up coming back, they change circumstances that, makes this more appealing for them. But it's certainly a new and the latest issue that Tony Khan has to address. And I think the more, they just had all of the appointments of their kind of talent relations staff, but that to me is, it's so much of this, it's like we are always focused on Tony Khan, and there's obviously the positives of having that one person that where the buck stops with. At the same time, is like you want to have those other people that you can lean on that have experience in talent relations and dealing with talents of many different backgrounds and many different experiences in the industry. That there's just continually a lot on Tony Khan's plate. And I would imagine this month has been a sizable amount that he is, like, many, many fires that it seems that he is putting out, and probably ones that we are not aware of as well.
And Payne in the chat room informing us that Brody King himself tweeted out a GIF of Leonardo DiCaprio saying, "I'm not leaving." So I'm not fucking leaving. I should correct that. So he's sticking around, it looks like. With Julia Hart as members of the House of Black.
That is it. The House of Black remains.